Hey guys, my name is Nutella, and my eyes are not just visual organs, they are real X-ray machines. I can literally see right through you. Do you feel uneasy after hearing these words? To be honest, me too. And this is why I want to tell you a little more about my life. When I was the size of an apple and was dwelling in my mother's stomach in a carefree way outside of my world, life was in full swing. My parents didn't want me to be an ordinary child. They dreamed of an indigo kid, and in every possible way, were studying information on how to give birth to a talented baby. And thanks to this, before I was born, I was listening to Bach for hours each day, swimming in the pool for 80 minutes a day together with my mother, eating a special diet, boosting one's brain, and listening to masterpieces of the classic writers which were being read aloud. I don't even know whether it's good or bad that I don't remember all this. Soon, a huge disappointment awaited my parents because I was born without an encyclopedia in my hands, did not speak 10 languages, or rather did not speak at all, was crying when hearing the music of Bach, and was whining all the time, turning the lives of my parents into hell. So, despite all the efforts of mom and dad, I was born as an ordinary child and didn't show any talents as I was growing and becoming mature. But, in fact, I just didn't tell my parents a lot because I was sure that I saw the world in the same way as all of you do. I evoked anger and pity in everyone. When I was drawing people in the form of some strange sticks, my parents clutched their heads and said, "We used to dream of an indigo child, but God, who knows what. This kid can't even draw a dog." In addition, psychiatrists were seriously interested in me as they were sure that I was their client. They noticed me during a trip to the medical museum when I said that the skeleton sitting there was very similar to my mother. Psychiatrists tried hard to detect something related to their field of specialization in me, but they didn't find anything except weird pictures and words. And only when I was 10, my parents realized that I was not weird. It was just that my eyesight was not the same as everyone else's. And in fact, I am an X-ray person. As for me, I realized that no one saw the world in the same way as I did, and this was scary. But in fairness, it is worth mentioning that I do not see the bony world all the time, but only when I squint, and that's why I'm almost always squinting. Apparently, skeletons have always been prettier than people for me. Nevertheless, my parents were glad that their daughter was not like everyone else, at least in some way, and started thinking about how to use my talent. They began sending me to various talk shows and TV programs, and even made me take part in a competition for gifted children. But in fact, I looked really strange among young geniuses and indigo kids. Very soon, my parents had to admit that my talent would never be as interesting to others as that of a young singer, for example. Well, this is just the X-ray, and there's nothing special about it. What's the big deal? These are ordinary bones. In short, my parents were disappointed in me again because this was not the talent that they had dreamed of. And this gave rise to a bunch of complexes in me, along with the dissatisfaction with myself. Once I was hanging out with my friend in the neighborhood and saw a crying woman holding a baby. Gripped by panic, she was running somewhere, and the baby seemed to be unconscious. Suddenly, another woman came up to her and asked her what happened. The child's mother stuttered and said that her daughter had suddenly lost consciousness and that she did not know what was wrong with her. And while a stranger called an ambulance, I came close and squinted. I saw a battery in the child's stomach and immediately told the woman about it. Everyone looked at me like I was crazy. Well, within a minute, the doctors arrived. That situation didn't stop bothering me, and I was constantly thinking of that little girl, about how she felt, and whether the doctors managed to save her. And then a couple weeks later, when I was returning home from school, I saw the same woman with the same girl. They immediately came up to me, and the woman hugged me and began to cry. She said that when they arrived to the hospital, the doctors could not understand what was wrong with the girl. She did not know it herself. And since every minute was extremely important, she remembered my words and told the doctors to check the kid's stomach. A few minutes later, she was x-rayed and my words were confirmed. There was a battery in her stomach. Fortunately, there was no need for surgery and the girl recovered quickly. I can't even express how glad I was to hear that. In fact, I can say with confidence that this is better than the fame of an indigo child, better than winning a competition for gifted children, and better than making a scientific discovery. I saved the life of a little person. This means that I didn't live in vain. Less than a month later, my talent came in handy again. This happened when my parents and I went on a trip to an ancient, dilapidated city. Suddenly, we were informed that a lady from our group had lost an expensive gold necklace that she was going to give her daughter on their wedding day. The police had to search and interrogate about 100 people present, which meant that we risked being stuck there for at least 5 hours. But in such a case, we would have missed the plane. which is why I had to help. First of all, I was just looking at people, but I didn't know exactly how the necklace that we needed looked like. After all, many women had different gold jewelry, and I didn't want to make a mistake, hurting and humiliating some innocent person. That's why I asked the victim to show me a photo of the necklace. For about 20 minutes, I was looking for it, but I didn't bring any results. Then I went to the bus to drink water and put on our driver's socks. I saw the necklace, which was exactly the same as the one in the photo. Most likely, he was sure that no one would get to him or his turn would be last, so he hoped to hide it a little later. I immediately reported what I saw to the police, and at first they did not believe me. But then I lied and said that I had seen how he pulled it out of the victim's bag. Well, I couldn't say that I was an X-ray person. In short, the thief was immediately detained. The necklace was returned to the rightful owner while my parents and I had a safe lunch at a cafe and went to the airport. After that incident, my mother finally began to be proud of me. She said that my talent was even better and more useful than the ones that she had always dreamed of. And my dad said that it would be nice if I developed in this sphere. In fact, after thinking a little bit about what he said, I decided to become a doctor. I think I will be good at it, and I will diagnose my patients faster and easier than ordinary doctors with normal eyesight. Meanwhile, I have more important things to do. I got really interested in history and often visited excavations with a group of archaeologists. Well, you know what? I am really useful there. I did not need metal detectors and hundreds of hours to find something interesting. I can see antiquities underground at a depth of 1.5 or 2 meters. And thanks to me, our group is doing much better and is more productive as well as efficient than other groups. We recently found a strange and very ancient vessel. The guys wanted to open it to check what was inside, but I immediately was able to see what was there. Inside it, there was a small box with several symbols. It seems that I have already seen them somewhere. Exactly. I saw them during a history lesson, and they actually mean radiation. In fact, literally the inscription said, invisible force that can kill everyone around. But our teacher mentioned that ancient people just did not know the word radiation. I shouted to the guys, telling them not to open the vessel and move away from it. Then I immediately called rescuers. Everyone looked at me as if I were crazy and asked if I had gone nuts. But when the rescuers arrived and took the measurements of the radiation background near the jug, the guys obtained the answers to their questions on their own and thanked me for saving them again. I was glad to be useful, and I think this is really my purpose in life. Hi everyone, my name is Ginger, and I have an unusual ability. The fact is that my hands are able to heal diseases. In my story, I will tell you how I learned about my gift and how I use it. There are a few minutes of sadness, joy, love, and emotions ahead of you. It all started when my parents allowed me to go to my grandmother's for a couple of weeks. The school was quarantined, classes were held online, so there was no point in sitting at home and at grandmother's. There's nature, a lake, fresh air, and the world's most delicious pancakes for breakfast. And also, 2 of my best friends lived there. And at that moment, I missed them very much. When I arrived at my grandmother's, great news awaited me. A very handsome guy with his parents settled in the house opposite, and he had already managed to make friends with my friends. This is great. Now there will be more of us, I thought, and hurried to meet Jack. To be honest, I fell in love with him right away. Sometimes it happens that you look at a person and everything inside turns upside down as if you have been waiting for him your whole life. His eyes are the warmest in the world, and his voice is softer than others, and even his movements are delightful. Does this sound familiar to you? The first day, I tried hard not to show my feelings. But in the evening, when Jack was called home by his mother and we were left alone with the girls, I got busted. Rita was telling me something about a strange animal she had recently seen in a forest. Mary listened to her with enthusiasm, and at that time, I was hovering around somewhere in the clouds, and without noticing it, I was scratching the name Jack with a stick on the ground. Everything is clear, the girl said with a grin, and we went home. And it seems that one of my friends immediately blabbed out because in the morning, Jack came after me and invited me to take a walk, and behind his back, he hid a small bunch of daisies. It was so sweet, and I was on the wings of joy. I went after Jack. I had 5 of the best days of my life ahead of me. Jack turned out to be so incredible, kind, gentle, and open, understanding. I've never met a guy like him before. I didn't want to part with him even for a moment. Rita and Mary were touched and said that we were right for each other. During the next walk, Jack confessed his feelings to me, and then he said that unfortunately tomorrow evening he and his parents were leaving for Canada, and he didn't know when he would return. What? How? Why? As soon as I got a boyfriend, he immediately decided to disappear somewhere. I burst into tears at the news. Jack decided to calm me down and said that there is such a word as must and he must go to Canada. He said that we would stay in touch and make video calls every day and exchange tons of text messages. But it didn't suit me. I kept on crying and asking Jack. Simply my essence wanted some kind of logical explanation about everything that was happening, and soon Jack gave up. He said that he was ill and now his health had deteriorated significantly, and he urgently needed long and difficult treatment, and it's about life. It turned out that he had problems with his lungs, and due to the illness, they were destroyed. Every day he needed to act as soon as possible. I didn't sleep a wink that night, and I tried to figure out why, but I was sure there was a way out of it. And in the morning, an idea appeared in my head, which I had borrowed from some movie. Love heals everything. I decided that only I could heal Jack through my feelings, and I didn't doubt it at all. So the next morning, I went straight to him and asked him to go for a walk. It is worth saying that now he really looks sickly. As soon as we came to our park, I said, "I understand that you will consider me crazy," and then put my hands on his chest. Jack was looking at me strangely, and I could feel the energy coming out of my hands. We stood there for 5 minutes this way, and then I removed my hands. Jack asked what it was, and I burst into tears again and told him about my theory. He smiled and said that he also felt some kind of energy from my hands, which seemed to fill him from the inside, and that it was a very strange and unusual sensation for him. Jack left in the evening. It was as if a part of me had come off. I've never felt so empty in my life. My friends tried to distract me and comfort me, but in vain. For the next few days, I was completely devastated and broken. All my thoughts were about Jack, and I was afraid that I would never see him again. After 5 days, I was in for a shock. Early in the morning, there was a knock on the door. My grandmother went to open it, and a few seconds later, Jack appeared in my room with a bouquet of daisies. I could not believe my eyes, and I rushed to hug him. It turned out that when Jack and his parents arrived at the Canadian clinic for treatment, the doctors simply could not find any diseases in him. After conducting additional studies, they stated the fact the patient is completely healthy. Isn't it a miracle? But most importantly, Jack and I were completely sure that it was my hands that held him that day. I don't know how it works, but there was no doubt about it. There were no other options. Unfortunately, I had to go home in 2 days, but I promised Jack that I would visit my grandmother at least once a month. And of course, we agreed to flood each other with tons of text messages every day. Literally an hour before my departure, my grandmother had high blood pressure, and because of this, she had a severe headache. She wanted to take the pills, but I stopped her. Firstly, I wanted to try and help another close person. And secondly, I wanted to check if it really works. I put my hands on my grandmother's head and held them there for a few minutes. Then my grandmother said that the headache suddenly passed and it seemed to her as if pleasant, warm waves were walking through her body. And when we measured the pressure, it was already normal. It turns out that I have done a real miracle with my own hands for the second time. When I returned home, I had a lot to think about. And first of all, I decided to test my abilities once again. While I was away, Dad got a severe burn on his hand, which caused him severe pain and discomfort, and I couldn't get past his suffering. But the problem was that my dad is a confirmed skeptic. He wouldn't hear of my magic hands or my healing skills, so I had to wait for the night when he was asleep and would quietly get close to him, or rather to his burn. Well, you know my further actions according to the old scheme. In the morning, Dad woke up as usual and went to the pain pills with which his every day had begun recently. But when he came to the table with the medicines, he froze and hesitantly told Mom that his hand didn't hurt at all. And then he touched it and his face was bewildered. Then he hesitantly pushed the bandage aside, and with this, surprise grew, and then he completely removed the bandage. The burn wound was completely healed, and only a scar remained in its place. It was something completely incredible because the day before, during the dressing, Dad had seen with his own eyes a complete mess of a place of the burn, and in such a state as the hand is now, that should only happen in a month. I decided not to torture my parents and told them everything from the very beginning, about Jack, about my grandmother, and about how I snuck into their room at night. On that day, it became clear that my hands were really capable of performing miracles and that I am a healer, but I didn't know what to do with this gift and how to use it so as not to harm anyone. However, after talking with my parents, I decided that for my own safety, it was better that no one knew about my abilities, but I was always open to close people and gladly relieved them of various diseases and ailments. It's so cool. By the way, Jack and I continue to date. I have already gone to my grandmother's 3 times after that incident, and this time, he decided to come to me himself. It must be true love. Hello, everyone. My name is Mia. These are my plans for my life, which usually shocks people. To start with, I'll soon be 16, and in a year, I'll finish school. My dad is an IT professional. My mom's a lawyer. They hope I become a journalist or a lawyer like Mom, but I have completely different plans for my life. The thing is that I feel jittery after school. I have to fart around another 6 years at college, then another 2 to gain some working experience. So only after 10 years will I have a chance to become a good and highly paid professional. And if I got lucky, of course. If not, then I'll just have a college diploma that I'll put into the far corner of my room, and then once a year I will sadly dust it off, regretting about the 6 years of my life spent in vain. Time at 6 years, 6 years to spend studying things that may never help me in my life. I think you'll have a logical question now. What do I want to do after school? The answer is likely to shock most of you, so sit down if you're standing and try not to make any sudden movements. I want to become a janitor or a maid or a cleaning lady. My cousin inspired me for this. She has been working in the cleaning industry for 3 years and is very happy with her choice. I used to laugh at her. Such a job seemed to me a humiliating and low-paid one. But then I saw things in a completely different way. She doesn't need to sit in a stuffy office for 8 hours a day, so she doesn't have any problems with her back. She's always moving. As a bonus, she's always fit. She plans her working day herself. She decides when she will have a vacation and for how long. She doesn't need to bear the hated colleagues or bad bosses. If she doesn't like her employer, she simply refuses to work for them. She earns more than a middle manager per month, only working about 4 to 6 hours a day. Also, it seems to me in my case, working as a janitor is an excellent anti-stress therapy. And the thing is, since childhood, when I was upset or angry, the best medication for me is a bucket and a rag. I start washing the floor, wipe off the dust, and clean the bathroom. After that, I don't have to worry about the stress, and my state changes from depression to euphoria. Before, I was simply angry with someone, saying that in the future I will become a janitor and would do my favorite thing for money. Now, I hope their jokes will come true. There was even a funny situation with me last month. It was connected to my desire for anti-stress cleaning therapy. Since I'm good at reciting poems, I was invited to take part in the reading contest from our school. I don't really like such events and all kinds of competitions. They make me nervous, but I had to agree, only out of respect for our literature teacher. She's simply an incredible woman. You can't hate her subject if she teaches it. So when I was waiting for my turn on the stage, my hands were shaking, my heart sank. The drops of cold sweat appeared on my forehead. As usual, I was really worried, so such a reaction is quite okay for me. Suddenly, I saw a bucket and a mop at the end of the hall, and then everything was in a fog. Well, you understand. I came to my senses when the contest organizers ran up to me, took the mop out of my hands, and told me to go on stage as soon as possible. They had been waiting for me for almost 10 minutes. I turned out to be so keen on cleaning that I forgot about the performance. I had cleaned the entire hall, 2 rooms, and the kitchen. The organizers rolled their eyes at me. The janitor was very grateful for me. I recited very well that day. After cleaning the floors, not a stick or stone remained of my anxiety. I was cool like a cucumber. In fact, when someone imagines a janitor, they get images of people from schools. Usually they are old women working for a penny and hating their job. But modern cleaning ladies are healthy and energetic young women whose work pays higher or equal with skilled people. Of course, it's important to work well and have a regular customer base, but I think if someone works quite well, they shouldn't worry about the clients. I won't need to spend money on the fitness club. On the contrary, I will spend calories on money in my free time. I want to study languages and travel at least 2 times per year. My parents still hope I will change my mind and decide to go to college. They just can't imagine how they'll tell their friends that their daughter works as a janitor. It seems a shame to them. Indeed, today's generation is used to planning college internship, work, homework, home, small vacation work, retirement. That's it, nothing else. And the work must be prestigious, no matter that you spend half of your life on it. By the way, the salary would be enough only for your minimum needs. I don't want to live like that. I don't want to follow the previous generations. I want to clean everything and work for my pleasure. I really love cleanliness. So why can't it be my vocation? I already have my future clients. My friends' parents respect my choice, and they say they will be happy to use my services. Now, there are already 7 potential clients on my list. Recently, I was already cleaning the house of my classmates. I got my first check. I spent it on dinner with my mom on her birthday. I hope that after that, she will change her mind about the cleaner's work. But my mom said 3 hours in a restaurant aren't worth 3 hours of our kids' working hours. I hope she'll change her mind after I work seriously. And she will see the real results of my work and notice its advantages.
SCP-682 begins thrashing violently, emitting several roaring sounds, and issuing profanity directed at testing staff. Finally, 682 breaks containment, attacking against several agents, staff, and researchers, resulting in 11 deaths and 86 injuries. Hello everybody, I'm Rubber. Today we bring you SCP Foundation Class Object Keter, SCP-682. SCP-682 is one of the most popular in the SCP Foundation. 682 is a large, vaguely reptile-like creature of unknown origin, famous for traits that are almost impossible to be destroyed. It appears to be extremely intelligent and was observed to engage in complex communication with other SCP. 682 appears to have a hatred of all life, which has been expressed in several interviews during containment. 682 has always been observed to have extremely high strength speed and reflexes. Though exact levels vary with its form, its physical body grows and changes very quickly, growing or decreasing in size as it consumes or shreds material and gains energy from anything it ingests, organic or inorganic. 682 regenerative capabilities and resilience are staggering, and it has been seen moving and speaking with its body 87% destroyed or rotted. When being asked why it kills those innocent farmers, it refused to answer at first. But, after being forced to answer by a doctor, 682 assaulted one of the personnel and answered, "They were disgusting." Due to the highly aggressive, adaptive, and intelligent nature of 682, termination testing has been ordered by the Foundation. The only problem is the number of termination testing has been conducted close to 100, yet none of them have been successful. Among the many execution records, the most classic of which is the attempt to use SCP-409 on 682. 409 is a very dangerous quartz crystal, and any objects coming into contact with 409 will begin to crystallize. After 3 hours after complete crystallization, the objects will burst into thousands of fragments with great force. Upon exposure, 682's crystallization begins. It shows signs of extreme pain and begins having seizures, but the crystallization stops at 62% conversion with an unknown reason. Its crystallized area explodes, causing massive physical trauma to 682. 1 hour later, 682 recovers from exposure, despite the loss of limbs and organs. It begins regeneration, stating that it will attempt to kill and consume all staff involved in this event. Due to the failure of SCP-409, major concerns were raised about possible developed immunities and possible adaptions. All future termination tests must first be carried out on tissue samples taken from 682. In another termination testing, 682 quickly pressed against the wall furthest from SCP-173, staring at it the entire time. SCP-173 cannot move while within direct line of sight. Then, once the line of sight is broken, it will move at high speed and attack by snapping the neck of the victim. 682 continues to stare at 173 without pause for 6 hours. Realizing the situation, agents equipped with large caliber sniper rifles dispatched and shot out the eyes of 682. After resuming observation, 682 is shown to be on the floor with several injuries around its head, neck, and legs. It rapidly regenerates from damage and moves to a different wall, developing several sets of eyes on various parts of its body, many covered by thick clear caps of armored carapace. 682 maintains observation of 173 for an additional 12 hours despite additional effects of agents and Foundation staff. At the end, Foundation staff have no other way to end this testing. Testing with SCP-162 has once again proved the exceptional vitality and adaptability of 682. Touching SCP-162 will immediately result in several hooks becoming embedded in the subject's skin. The subjects will bleed profusely, resulting in death. After a prolonged period of time, 682 exposed to 162 begins thrashing violently, emitting several roaring sounds, and issuing profanity directed at testing staff. After 4 minutes of continued exposure, 682 lunges away from SCP-162, severing its lower jaw and left hind limb and causing serious tissue damage to many areas of its body. 682 breaks containment, attacking against several agents, staff, and researchers, resulting in 11 deaths and 86 injuries. So we know at this time no means available to SCP teams are capable of destroying SCP-682. They are only able to cause massive physical damage. 682 should be contained within chambers filled with hydrochloric acid until it is submerged and incapacitated. I hope you enjoyed today's video.